Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Record Player. Our guest today still has the exact same energy on a stage and with a guitar in his hands as he did the first time I saw him perform, which was back in the mid 80s, I'd say. Even after 5 decades, he is still one of the greatest live performers in music. From Riverboat Fantasy and Bad Apple to The Natural Edge and Layin Pipe and everything in between. I'm joined by the great Mr. David Wilcox today. How are you, David?
I'm well, thank you, Scott. How are you?
I'm great. The weather could break. That'd be nice. Either piss rain or turn back into winter, something. But the headache, just summer seems to be your thing, though. How's your summer going so far?
It's wonderful. Yeah, yeah. We've been doing a lot of playing and we got some more to do, and I'm enjoying life pretty much thoroughly.
I said summer's your thing. I can't imagine a summer without David Wilcox out on the road and performing, and
Thank you.
whether it's cottage country or key to bala or a blues festival somewhere. Um, is the hot weather is what is that? I mean, is that just what keeps you going? It's no fun to tour in the winter, probably, but your summer. I mean, when I
Well,
think of summer, I think of David Wilcox.
well, that's great, and I thank you very much. No, we play in winter too. We play indoors most of the time, fortunately, but at casinos, that sort of thing, Yeah, so we play in winter too.
I've spoken to Colin Linden, who's a friend of yours, and he says that there's nobody on earth who looks like they're having more fun on stage than David Wilcox.
No, I've never heard. I mean, that's a wonderful thing to say, and I do have a lot of fun. That's one of the things that keeps me going. You know,
Whether it's other people I've interviewed, Gordie Johnson, Colin Linden, Colin James, they've most of them when you ask them who their influences were and who the benchmark is, a lot of them mention your name. Who was your benchmark when you were younger? Who was your benchmark when you were?
there are two of them. Elvis Presley, who was responsible for me getting my first guitar. The grown-ups hated him. He must be great. What does he have? He has a guitar. So I was a small child, but I bugged my family to, get me one. And Robert Johnson,
Oh,
which is one of the seminal musicians of our era, I think. Some people call him the first rock artist, you know, and just a master. I still don't know how he did it.
Robert Johnson was Jimmy Page before Jimmy Page was Jimmy Page.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because when Robert Johnson's records first started being reissued in the 60s, there were all these mysteries about him. There were rumored to be no photographs, which there are, I think, four authenticated ones now. And, his date of birth and where he lived and all those things were not known. And so many mysteries. And the fact is, we've learned a lot of, biographical information, but the greatest mystery remains. How do you get to be that blankety blank good? You
Exactly.
know?
Who taught
Yeah.
him? Right?
Well, and yeah, just a master.
Now, before you came to have success as a solo artist in the mid 70s, it wasn't blues clubs and things that you were playing in. It was, I mean, you were in the folk scene. You were in folk and playing acoustic music. Is that right?
Yes, it was. I was very lucky. When I was 21, right around my birthday, I got a gig playing with Ian and Sylvia, who I really adored then and really admire now. Great, great musicians, and they taught me so much, and I got to be their guitar player.
How did that
You
come
know.
about? How does a kid growing up in Toronto hook up with Ian Tyson?
Okay. Amos Garrett, a great guitar player, was their guitar player in The Great Speckled Bird, right? I heard, I mean, it was all over town where I hung out, that Amos was leaving their band. And so I thought, if I don't try, I'll never, find out what would have happened. You get it, if I had
Mhm.
tried. So I wangled Ian's number out of a mutual acquaintance and called him up cold. And at first, he didn't want to give me an audition, and rightly so. I mean, he said, "Well, what have you done? You haven't played anything on our level, have you?" And he wasn't unkind, but he was rather cold to the idea. And I said, "What have you got to lose?" And he let me audition, and he hired me. Wow.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Um, how much do you remember from that audition? I mean, did you just, is it a little blurry now or do you?
Well, I remember the songs. I mean, I remember several of them, that he played, and I still don't know why he hired me, but perhaps I didn't try to showboat too much, and I tried to phrase around the voice, I hope, a bit. And for whatever reason, he hired me, and it was a steep learning curve. And I mean, I could never step into Amos's shoes, but I learned, step by step, got to play with some great musicians, and got to start touring North America, and it was all in all one of the most amazing experiences I've had in my life. I played with him for about 2.5 years.
Well, and you found yourself on TV too, right? Because they had the Ian and Sylvia show on was CBC, I guess.
Now, that I mean, I went from a kid who had dropped out of high school, was a rotten student, no athlete, to being on TV for a second and a half every week. I mean, we don't want to exaggerate here, a little turnaround, or something, but it worked. There was a woman at the bank who I thought was attractive, and I started passing her little notes, with my deposits, and stuff like that. And she eventually said, "Are you on TV?" And
See,
we went and
second and
had
a
lunch.
half worked out.
We had lunch, I mean, so it was amazing being on television, even as I say, for a second and a half every week, you know.
I look back on that show. I mean, and some of the names that came through there. I wish my mother was alive because I could tell her that I'm interviewing somebody who played with Anne Murray because Anne Murray was her favorite human on the planet. Um, who else did you play with that came through that TV show?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that Anne Murray was a very, very nice person and a real professional. She was great. I only played two or maybe four songs with her, but she was just fantastic. Charlie Rich,
Hmm?
who was on Sun Records, and Carl Perkins, Bobby Bare,
Yeah.
Ray Price, some great country stars of that era.
Um, you got to play with other artists, obviously, after Ian and Sylvia. John Paul Jones comes to mind, Todd
Mhm.
Rundgren. One of my favorites is Melissa Mulder, who I loved back in those days. Was there a favorite memory for you after Sylvia and Ian of people that you played with or toured with?
Well, I enjoyed all of them, really. I mean, I was able to not, if I wouldn't have, if I didn't like an artist's material, I wouldn't, go and play with them. But I don't have one memory that comes to mind. I mean, yeah, I can't think of one in particular. Sorry,
That's
you
okay.
know. Yeah.
When did you start writing for yourself and make that decision that this is I want to be on my own. I want to go out and start my own solo career.
Well, I was playing with Maria, and I started getting ideas of how I'd like a band to sound, and some just things I'd like to try out with an audience. And I my first wife Sadia encouraged me, and so did Morgan Davis. He was a real help. Just, the pieces, how life opens the door sometimes. Well, Morgan said, I don't want to be a band leader right now, and I'll sell you my lights for a very reasonable price, and I'll tell you how to book the band, and I'll be in it, which he was. He was the other guitar player. And so life sort of provided a platform or a door to trying that. And I thought it'd be over in 2 weeks. I mean, I had seen so many musicians start their own bands, and it didn't work out usually. And this is many, many years later. And it did. I can't believe it. But I got to be a front person, you know.
Um, your first album, actually, you're one of the few people that I can say your first album came out twice. I mean, right?
It did.
It took a while to get going. This is it here, right here,
That is it.
right?
And that looks like an EMI pressing, I think, is it not? Or
Yes, sir.
Capital?
Capital,
Yeah.
capital.
Okay. So what happened was we nobody was willing to record us, even though we were drawing pretty well in clubs and that. But it was the disco era, so we really didn't fit in that genre. So I found an investor named Drago Maliner. He was a wonderful man. He owned a music store, and Drago funded the first album. And made money from it too, which is only fair eventually. But so okay, so we have this album we've recorded in 1978, and nobody would buy it. They wouldn't release it. And in 1980, I found a small label, an independent label that did release it. And it sold pretty well for a brand new album by an unknown artist. It sold like 25,000 copies or something. So, but what happened was they went bankrupt.
Right.
The small label did. But it proved that we maybe could sell some records. And so I signed with Capitol, which was a big, and it was eventually EMI and now Universal, signed with Capitol on that basis of the first album.
But it was a long time in between. I mean, it was from I think
Yeah.
77 the first release, and then 80.
No, the recorded in 78,
Oh, okay.
released in 1980,
Wow.
and then finally in 83, I think, I had signed with the EMI and they released the first EMI album along with re-releasing the first album. Yeah.
That time frame from I guess 80 to 90 to the early 90s was just record after record, success after success. I'd have to say for me in my mid 20s, it was this one. It was Breakfast at the
Ah,
Circus.
yes.
I love this record. That
Me
album got
too.
me through an awful lot in my early 20s when I was doing some stuff I probably shouldn't have been doing. um, do you have a favorite record or any favorite songs, whether it's ones that you prefer playing live that you just can't wait to get on stage with, or have special meaning to you? Out of all these records,
Well, it moves around, you know.
fluctuate.
Well, on a particular day, I'll have a set of favorites, and then another day it might be a different group of songs, So there's no one or two. It's funny because people have sometimes asked me, do you get tired of performing the Bearcat or whatever song? And there was a singer called Kay Starr who had a big hit called Wheel of Fortune in the early 50s, mid 50s. And somebody asked her the question, and she said that would be like turning your back on an old friend who had given you so much. Those songs have given me so much in terms of life experience, joy, and all kinds of things. So, but I don't have one favorite, no.
And you don't have a set list either. I mean, you kind of go out and fly by the seat of your pants, whatever the audience wants to hear, whatever you feel like playing, right?
Yes, that's right. Right now, with the guys I normally play with, we have about 3.5 or even 4 evenings worth of material. We have a lot of material, and I do exactly what you've said. I go out and start playing, and we have a signal that the front of house engineer gives us when we're supposed to quit, so we don't play all night. And then the 15-minute or two-song signal or whatever. And so, yeah, that's how I do it, and keeps it fresh.
That's so funny. I think when I was 15 years old, I think 15 or 16, I was doing the soundboard for a friend's band playing at some bar in Brampton, I think. And they were singing Bearcat. And I was chatting up some girl beside me and ignoring the board completely. And he kept singing into the microphone. Instead of saying I do the Bearcat, he kept saying I got feedback. I got feedback. And I wasn't even listening to That's my David Wilcox memory from back then.
That's a good one.
As a writer, you've always had a reputation of being a bit, maybe lyrically a bit raunchy, the raunch and roll, whatever you want to call it, potty mouth, maybe. Uh,
Well,
uh,
I can't control your thoughts.
no,
I
well,
can't,
fair enough.
I mean, Layin Pipe is a salute to the construction industry.
Oh, of
If
course.
you hear it differently, that is, that's up to
That's
you.
that's all in my head. Is that kind of the blues rock vibe, or I mean, I guess it was Bad Apple that sort of started that off, give you that reputation maybe as a bad boy. But was that just a reputation you got that you purposely, or did this just sort of flow out of you naturally? I mean, when you write a song, it's just whatever's in your head.
Well, yeah, what you've just said, I mean, the thing is, if you think of some of them like Bearcat, Hypnotize and Boogie, they're not particularly raunchy in that sense. And some of them are, yeah.
Growing up in Toronto, it was Q107, so all around the country it was other places, but it was all that time took a toll on you personally as well. I mean, let's talk about that a little bit. I just mentioned for me,
Are you talking about the fact that I was hammered and high for
yeah,
many
sure.
years? Yes. Well, let's not sugarcoat it here. Yeah, yeah. I went to the party and stayed, and I did a lot of partying. Yeah, I did.
I'm talking about me not remembering a lot of that era, but I mean, you're with a guy on stage, and I'm sure you don't remember a lot of that era as well.
There are holes. There are holes. Yeah.
But you dedicate your a lot of your time now, and since then, since you've recovered from that, to helping other people and working with other addicts.
Well, if anything, I mean, anything like that, I would get a lot more from than I would put energy into, you know. Um, but I've been clean and sober for a while now, and it's better for me. It may not be better for somebody else. Somebody else can pick up a beer or a glass of wine or a joint, whatever, and put it down and go home and be happy. I'm the one who has to finish the whole thing, you know. At least I
Yeah,
know that.
I was the same way, and I didn't just finish the bottle. I had to finish the case. So I hear you. The the industry has changed so much over the decades that you've been involved in it. I'm sure you've been asked this question a million times, but what are the biggest differences between when your heyday in the 80s when you were recording and touring to now? I mean, what are the biggest differences in the industry?
There are two things I would cite. The first one is that when I started around Lake Ontario, the horseshoe around Lake Ontario, there was, I think, one-third of the population of Canada or something like that. And there were a lot of small little bars and old hotels where you could get subsistence work,
Mhm.
you know, and learn your craft, learn an instrument, learn to work with an audience if you're a front person. And so I was able to have the advantage of that. And I mean, it wasn't glamorous or glorious, and the outcomes were, you know, pretty bad. But the fact is that it was an opportunity that a lot of bands don't have today to get out there and just play for people and learn that feels. Okay, so that's gone. But what we do have is the internet,
Yeah.
which makes a vast difference. Now, I've been misquoted on this because I would have never said that it's easier today. It is not easier, and it's never been easy, but it's different, right? And one of the differences is that bands get a hearing in a different way. And I came up through the era of record companies. There were some good people who worked at record companies, but a lot of the people who worked there had very limited scope in terms of imagination or willingness to take a chance. I'm one of the lucky ones.
Mhm.
You know, I got signed, I got promoted. I'm pointing to the objects behind me, you know, and the thing is, I got signed and I got promoted. So my music got a hearing. But there were great musicians who did not get signed and did not get promoted and didn't get the hearing that a person like myself got, you know? So today it's a different playing field with the internet.
Right. Well, they say it's hard. It's easier now because your music is getting to a larger audience because of the internet. But what they don't realize is that there's so much on the internet that it's hard to sift through to find you.
Exactly, you know, so it's those are the two big differences. The availability of live venues, small ones, funky ones, but they still were there, and the fact that we have the internet, you know. I wouldn't ever say it's easier, but it's different, you know.
I'm an old guy, so I'll take, Danforth Music Hall and Lulu's in Kitchener over over the internet
Hmm.
any day. But what are there any artists nowadays that you like? Are there new artists that you're listening to that you say that person's got it? I like them.
Well, I hear music that I like, but I don't spend a lot of time listening to contemporary pop music. I think the world of Ed Sheeran, you know, and I really respect Taylor Swift as an artist because of the integrity that she's behaved with, you know. Those are a couple that come to mind, but I don't spend a lot of time. I listen to what calls to me. And I mean, some of it is, Tchaikovsky or almost anything, roots music, of course, you know. And Anyway, that would be my answer to that.
Um, you're out touring. You're always out on the road. It seems like you're never anywhere that I don't see appearing live. David Wilcox. Um, is there new music on the horizon? Is there something that you want to a record or something that you want to? Is that something that's on the radar for you? A new album or anything like that?
Yes, we've been recording intermittently for some time now, and I'd like to get a couple more good new tunes, and then we'll see. You know, I hope to put it out there. Yeah.
Good, good. David Wilcox is touring through Canada, as always, this summer, including in Ontario on August 9th in Kitchener, August 15th in Dundas, and September 13th in London with our friend Kim Mitchell.
Hmm.
This has been a thrill for me having you on the record player today, David, because I am and was and still is a huge fan of your music. So
Oh, thank you.
I thank you so much for being with us. Good luck out on the road. Stay safe. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Scott.